Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a wonderful week. I know that I had a great weekend. And so it's nice to be back in the studio on this Monday morning. So let me see. Last week, what did we do? Last week, we started off our first strip on Monday with an introduction to this channel and to myself. Then we follow that with the painting that you can see behind me. We started off by splattering the branches in turquoise that kind of make up the background. And then on Friday or Thursday, we added the flowers more or less to this painting. So that was about what we did last week, and today we are going to continue with this time the outer shell of this painting. This painting is, again, as I mentioned before, part of a series that I have done, which I call my dancers. That's more or less the title I gave all these. I didn't do them all in a row. I don't work that way. I do them in spurts, depending how I feel. I try never to do twice the same kind of painting in a row because it would get boring extremely quickly. But so anyways, these painters, these dancers, I'm sorry, here we go. I'm trying to look for these pictures on my computer. And here we go. I found them. Now let's just get this out here for you. This also has been a week of learning basically how to use all these programs. I love learning. There's no problem with that. I always seeking new things to learn about. And notably the learning how to use this program so I can do streaming. So this is one of my dancers you can see right here. And then I had this other couple of dancers as well. And then eventually, I did this one a few years ago, I must say. And then just before the confinement because of the COVID, I did this last dancer. So that is basically, and I've just continued with dancers. What my next painting will be, to be honest with you, I have no idea. But anyways, so that is what I've been up to. And so today, what have I done? Before, since I come in earlier to set up the equipment, I also just can't stand around doing nothing. So what I did do is I did prepare on my painting. I did on the purple, the outskirts or the outer shell of this painting, I did little circles, which I call my electromagnetic circles. And let me put down my helmet. Of course, I have technical difficulties. I still don't have a microphone. It hasn't arrived yet. So I'm using my son's headset from his Xbox gaming. So every time I move back and try to show you something, I have to put my headset down, pick it back up. But that's the way it goes for right now. And all this permits me to get more professional and to learn all the equipment and all the hotkeys so I can control all these visuals and try to make it exciting. I mean, I could just plant a camera in the corner and just let it roll for an hour, but I would think that would be extremely boring. I know that when I get all this technology down pat and my keystrokes become like an automation, it'll be a lot livelier, a lot more fun for you, the viewer, and also a challenge and more fun for me. So let me put my headphones down, and I'm going to show you on the screen up close really what I did so far. So there you saw my electromagnetic waves, what I call them. And of course, I just used a compass. Why wouldn't I? The compass was invented by Galileo, I think I don't know, at the end of the 16th century, 1594, something like that. And so he invented the compass, the mathematical compass, not the electromagnetic, the magnet compass. That was invented, I think, like 200 years before Christ. So anyways, so if it was good enough for Galileo, the compass is good enough for me. So I did those on the outskirts all around, and basically what I'm going to do today is paint over those with gold paint. So that's basically what I had in mind, and that's what I'm going to start doing right now. So I'm going to leave you with maybe just the same view, but a little bit of music in the background while I get the paint ready, and then we can go ahead. So I'll see you in a few minutes. When I'm done, I'll come back and talk to you some more. So I got my paint already, basically gold with a little bit of water. I want it to be very fluid, but yet like ink. I want it to go smoothly, quickly, but I want it to be opaque. I don't want it to be like a pastel where you can see through it. So not very complicated to get ready. Just put the paint as it comes out of the tube, add a little water to get the right fluid texture, and then if I need to add water, I will when it starts drying up. And there we go. So back to work. So this will be so much nicer when I have my little tie-in microphone, because I'll be able to talk to you as I'm actually painting. So it'll be so much more fun for you and for me as well. So one of the great pleasures of painting on a stretch canvas is that you can turn it around when you need to. And since I'm right-handed, I usually start from the upper left-hand corner and work my way down to the lower right-hand corner, so never have my hand go in the paint that was already applied on the canvas. So I just added a little more gold to my palette. I'm going to go back and continue, and then eventually when it all dries and it's all dry, we will go to the next stage, which I'm not too sure exactly what it's going to be right now, but I'm sure I have time to figure it out as I'm painting. So let's go back to the painting, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I got that first part done. Did my electromagnetic waves, and it took what, maybe 20 minutes to do that. You can imagine when I'm working on a painting that is like 6 feet by 6 feet, I could be doing this for like an hour and a half. So we're going to have to balance things out because the stream could be extremely boring. Right now I have a big fan in the corner. I'm going to turn it up because I would like this to dry quickly. I'm an impatient kind of a painter. I'm always speeding. I always want to hurry up, and I paint very quickly also. I paint very quickly also for one of the main reasons is that I've painted on paper and made posters that I glued in the street for many years. I actually stopped painting for 5 years and dedicated myself just to painting on paper to glue paintings in the street. So with that mentality, the first 2 years of those 5 years, let's say, my objective was quantity, not quality. So I also got in the habit therefore to crank out these paintings as quickly as possible. So even though I've gotten into more intricate paintings afterwards, I still kept that attitude of painting extremely quickly. So anyways, I'm going to go and turn on the vent, the fan a little higher up. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to put my headphones down. Until I get my other microphone, there's no way of going around that. I also, since I've been learning about these streamings, I go on YouTube and watch a lot of these younger cats streaming on their games and whatnot. And they've taught me basically how to use Streamlabs OBS, which is the program I'm using to stream with. And I noticed that a lot of these younger kids, they teach you how to mute all the sounds around the microphone and how to have a deeper, richer voice. Now, that part is very interesting. I would like to have a deeper, richer voice. I had a lot of problems last week, even with this microphone. But I definitely do not want to knock off all the noises that surround me. I mean, I am in the old part of Nice in southern France, and as you can see in the old town, we have these buildings, which is like the building I'm in right now, which are, I would say, between here and my neighbors, they're about 15, 16 feet, as you can see from that last picture. Very narrow streets, very noisy streets, as well as when it's cloudy, it's fairly dark in the studio as well. But that's part of the charm of being in the old Nice. And I don't really want to mute the noises of my studio. This is a building where there's other artists. They're going to walk in on me while I'm streaming. They're going to say hello because they won't pay attention of what's going on. I'm going to be making noise, dropping things, and that's part of the ambiance. I want to keep that mentality and that sounds, and so I do have the fan. I'm going to crank it up so it dries quicker, and you'll just have to bear with me. I'll be right back. See you in like 10 seconds. There we go. I got the fan roaring to dry this the gold paint as quickly as possible. And what I'm probably going to do, for some reason, I'm going to do my kind of bubbles that I do on backgrounds of many of my paintings, like bubbles. I don't know what they're called, but anyways, and I'm thinking of doing that on these paintings for the background. At least that's what I kind of have in mind. So anyways, as we're waiting for this paint to dry, I thought maybe I could entertain you by showing you some pictures. Like, what could I show you? Here is, for example, a mixture of my paintings. Here's a potpourri of my paintings that I'm going to show you, and then in a few minutes when we're dry, I will start applying the bubbles on my painting. What I basically am going to have to do is figure out what colors I'm going to use. So as I'm using my little brain to figure out what I'm going to do next, I'll leave you with watching these paintings, and I'll be right back. So that was a kind of a variety, a potpourri of my paintings. There were paintings from the 1980s, the 1990s, and some more recent paintings. So you have all different kinds of styles. The heart that you just saw, this painting right now, these were basically posters and painted on paper to glue in the streets. And these are a few years later, a little more sophisticated, but still dedicated to be glued in the street. I mean, this is street art, and before street art became the phenomenon that it has been the last 10 years. So anyways, so I hope you enjoy that, and what else could I do to keep you while we're waiting for the paint to dry? Let me show you maybe a little video from my friend Pete's. I love the music he makes. He's kind of like the DJ of our building, and whenever we have a major event, he comes by and does the soundtrack. He also does music on his own. He also does web design, and he works a lot out of London. He lives here in Nice, and you can find description to his music in down below. So let me just put in his music and I'll shut up for a little bit. I'm going to go and get the paint ready for the next step.
Le phare, le sommeil, t'en fais pas, tu surveilles, pour une fois, le soleil, file tout droit. C'est pour toi, le soleil. So long time for me, 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 Santo Gubierno. So long time for me, so long time for me, so long time for me.
So I'm getting the paint ready for the next step. I decided I was going to do maybe use cerulean blue as my background. I don't usually use this color for what we're about to do, but I don't usually do some streaming either, so might as well just innovate as we go along. I probably don't have enough paint here. I'm going to add a little more white so I won't have to redo another little batch. I hate wasting my paint as well. I always like, maybe it's because I'm stingy, I don't know, but I always try to have the least amount of waste. So I always tend to do a little less than what I need. I'm learning. After all, it's only been 40 years. So I'm going to just add a little more white and I'll be right back. So here again, I'm going to add more white to this. And I'm going to make sure that it's nice and thick because I really want to avoid doing two coats. I mean, I'm too impatient. So I'd rather put this on nice and thick. And blue cerulean is one of those colors that will just about cover everything. It is so opaque when you lay it down that it's great. It really covers very well. So I'm going to first put on the first coat, which is going to be very light, and then I'm going to just put the details on afterwards, which will be much darker. Still in the cerulean blue, but with no water. So I think the paint is dry in the background. I'm going to turn off the fan and I'm going to get back to work. If you don't mind, I'll see you in a few minutes. Turn that off. Okay, well, that went fairly well. Now you're starting to have an idea a little bit of what the painting is eventually going to look like. I'm going to put some darker cerulean once the light blue is dry. Then obviously there's going to be a black border between the two backgrounds, the purple and then the magenta. And you never know, I might even put a black border going around the whole painting. It all depends. I mean, there has to be some element of improvisation when you paint. So, I sit down and things just come as they come. I wasn't sure what I was going to do on this magenta last Friday. And this morning, when I showed up in the studio, well, I just saw those colors and decided to go with that. So that's basically how it goes. So before ending the stream, I really would have liked to have put that dark blue just so you can see the whole process. But since I put on that paint fairly thickly, I think it's going to take a little while, even with the heavy duty. Do I have this on full speed? Yes, I do. Even with the fan on full speed, it's going to take a while. So let me bring it closer just in case, with a little bit of luck. There we go. So, anyways, I swear I can't wait to have the equipment that I need. It'll be so much nicer when I have both of my HD cameras, because I'll be able to zoom in. I'll be able to do so much more than what I have now. My second camera, the one that you see in the larger shot right there, it's basically my old Samsung telephone that I'm using on Wi-Fi to my computer. So I can't really touch that much. I can't zoom in, and I'm even lucky that it's not all blurry every 3 seconds. So anyways, so when I'll get that little box, which will able to, I already have a switcher, which means I have a little box where I can switch between my cameras. Here, I'll show it to you. It's really no big deal, but here's that little box. So in here, I put in my 2 cameras HDMI entrance, and then I have the output, which also is HDMI. But you can't go from HDMI to your computer. No way, it doesn't work that way. So I'm waiting for another little box where I can go from my output of this from the switcher into that box, and that one will hook in my into the computer via USB. So that's one of the pieces of equipment I'm waiting for. The second equipment are a little stand-up mic that I should have by the end in a couple of days. I would think Thursday maybe if I'm lucky, maybe Wednesday if I'm even luckier. So I'll be able to get rid of the headset, which is extremely annoying. I'm not a gamer, so I don't like having that on my head. Plus it's hot and not that comfortable. That at least the other microphone, maybe I can even walk with it until I get my little tie clip microphone. That's going to make all the difference in the world. So eventually, when we have both HD cameras, we'll have a nicer resolution. We'll have a nicer sound, hopefully. And especially, I'll be able to talk as I'm painting and moving around in the studio, show you a little more of my environment in the world I live in, which is kind of interesting and fun. I did show you, I think, last week, and as we're waiting for the paint to dry, I could show you again the background of my studio space, because I painted all the walls, and what you basically see right now is that blue tarp, which is behind my painting to protect my submarine. And I'll show you right now what I'm talking about. So there's the background, like a submarine. Those are the controls that you can see. And then I have some of my symbols on both sides of the porthole there, underwater porthole. These are symbols that I've used in many of my posters. Then we go back into outer space, where we can see the father and his son looking at the planet Earth, showing the kid where he came from or where he's going. It's up to you. Then we're back into space. Then, as I mentioned before, we have the battle between good and evil, a very Manichaean view of life after the philosopher Manes. And then up in the balcony we have the good old military, the aristocracy, the capitalists, the judges that overlook and control the faith of the people. And we have an ode to the farmers. These are an ode to farmers, and then we have an ode to those working in the mines, who pull out all the ingredients we need for our cell phones and God knows what. And then we have the rat race, sex games, the armament, pollution, civilization. Not the best part of civilization, I must say. But anyway, so that concludes basically what my studio looks like when you are behind the blue tarp. So there you have it. So now you know why I have that blue tarp. I take it down when we have a major show, because twice a year we have major art shows where all the studios on all 5 floors are open to the public, and we have about 1,000 people in one evening that just strolls up and down. We have a bar downstairs, and it's a lot of fun, I must say. We have live music, and usually it's a blast. So that's when I clean up my whole studio, put all the paintings away, and leave it all bare and for people to see the mural. So where are we now with the paint in the background? I doubt it. I really doubt that it's dry already. I know from experience and by the thickness of the paint, I think I'm going to have to wait a little while longer. And I can still see a certain shine on the cerulean. So I doubt that it is dry. I'm going to go check. Maybe we'll be lucky, but I doubt it. Not quite dry like I mentioned. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. This is usually when I used to go to my computer in the other part of my studio, and I would play on my old PC. I would play those games like forever. It seems like year after year after year, just because I had to kill some time allowing my paint to dry. So when my friends would walk in, they would always go, "Ah, so I see you're hard at work." And I said, of course, they knew the answer. I'm waiting for my paint to dry. That's why I'm playing. And I must admit, sometimes when I wasn't inspired and didn't feel like working, I would still play my video games, and I would still say, waiting for the paint to dry, even if there wasn't a canvas at all on the wall. I say canvas on the wall because if you look all around the painting, you can see outlines of many other paintings. And basically 90% of my paintings I paint on canvas, and much larger than this this painting right here, which I considered quite small, even though I think it's probably 3.5 feet by 3 feet maybe. But still, I consider it a small painting. So you can see the outlines of my other paintings, and what I do is I just usually staple them to the wall. And when I'm done with them, I just take them off, roll them up, and I can store them in the back room. It just takes so much less room. So basically, that's why the tarp is so full of other colors. So listen, I'm going to get my paint ready to put on the darker cerulean. And while I'm doing that, I will leave you with, again, some more of my paintings as a background for you to watch. So I'll just leave this and I'll go mix the paintings and I'll be back. These are just a quick slideshow. So anyways. Okay, so I basically got my paints all ready to go. I think the little round part, little bubbles or whatever you want to call them. I don't have a name for everything I do. I think they're dry enough that I can avoid putting this part of my hand in them, which has happened a million times. As I was preparing the paint, of course, with the fan right behind me, my hair blew in the paint. That also happened to me a million times. So sometimes I don't notice it and it dries. I have to rip it off. Other times I can't catch it in time and I can just go rinse out the paint from my hair. But anyways, so I'm going to go back if you don't mind, and I'm going to start adding the dark blue to my things, and then we'll call it a day. And I'll get another canvas probably primed for after this one is finished. But in the meantime, I'm going to return to my bubbles, and I'll be back in a few minutes. Doucement, doucement. Okay, well, there you have it. That is basically my background for today. Let me see if I can't get in a little better here. There you go. You can see the little bubbles, as I call them. Now, I doubt things are going to stay the way they are. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do next. But anyways, I have the entire evening and night to think about it. So I'm going to conclude today's stream by thanking you very much for joining me. I hope you'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. For another stream. I'm going to leave you with my schedule. And once again, I'm going to thank you, and I'm going to say, see you tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye, everybody.